All right, so the subject of this video is going to be about the right brain hemisphere and what I believe to be the key to some of humanity's hidden abilities, which I'll get into more in depth in another video. But I wanted to discuss the right brain hemisphere and the role of the right brain in basically, you could say, super intelligence, super genius, right? Intuition. You look at history's geniuses, right? So first thing I wanted to say is that in terms of like the brain hemispheres, right? The role of the brain hemispheres, right, is that the left brain is the logical brain hemisphere, and it deals with explicit information, right? So things like dates, right? What color my car is, what make and model my car is, right? The name, like my birthday, right? My name, right? Things like that. That's the left brain hemisphere, right? In the left brain hemisphere, you could say it collects information, right? It analyzes information, right? But then in the right brain hemisphere, you have the creativity, you have what does an apple taste like, right? What does red look like, right? Right? The implicit information, the information that you can't describe with words, right? And another role of the of the right brain hemisphere is to synthesize information, right? You have analyzing information and synthesizing information, right? Meaning that if the left brain hemisphere collects dots, right, the right brain hemisphere connects dots, right? Left brain collects, right brain connects, right? And this is something that is also related to the human imagination, right? Which is also highly important. But more importantly, if we're talking about this matrix, if we're talking about this system, right, then the ability to connect dots, to connect pieces, disparate pieces of information together, right? That's where you start to understand what's going on in this world, right? You start to realize what's going on. And that happens whenever you are able to connect dots between different pieces of information. And this is something that the school system actively programs out of people, right? This is why, art and creativity and things that feed into the right brain hemisphere, the imagination, right? Philosophy, things like that. They neglect that type of information in the school system, right? Because a critical thinking population that could connect dots between pieces of information, if you can see the bigger picture, if you can not only collect information, but see everything as a bigger picture, right? See the bigger picture, see the connections between the dots. Then that's when you start to get wise to what's really going on. And this is something that the cabal, right, uh, this system doesn't want to allow. And this is why the right brain, right, the imagination, this is also why you can also look at it this way. Why is everything ugly now? Why is it that architecture and art and music and everything, like, why is that ugly? Why is everything bad now? Like, why is it that all of the creativity sort of gone away? Is because they're neglecting the creativity and the ability to connect dots between information, right? And this is why it's sort of insane whenever I talk to normies about about conspiracy theories, because they can't connect the dots, and this is exactly what they want. Because anytime I bring up something about like a dot connection, anytime I bring up, oh, okay, well, but this is because of this, is because of this, is because of this, and the dots connect, people don't understand. It's like, and this is the way that this matrix wants you to see the world. Is they want you to see the world as a disconnected, random set of events, right? Everything's random. It's all just chemicals in the Big Bang and Darwinian evolution, right? That materialistic narrative of everything is just chance, right? That's if you get locked in the left brain hemisphere. Instead, if you cast your net to the right, that's where you get the intuition. That's where you connect the dots. You see the bigger picture. Everything's connected. But that's not what they want, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is you look at super genius. You look at intelligence, right? First of all, there's this part of the brain that is called the corpus callosum, right? Which is basically a set of neurons in the center of the brain that connects the left and right brain hemisphere, the left and right brain hemispheres, right? So, first of all, Albert Einstein, his corpus callosum was larger than an average human's, right? He was a genius, right? And another thing too is if you want to think about it this way, the left brain hemisphere is about logic, left logic, right? But the right brain hemisphere is about intuition, right? With logic, you're figuring out how to get the answer. With intuition, you're figuring out how you got the answer, right? You just get the answer, it just comes to you, right? And think about Nikola Tesla as another example of this intuition, this super genius, right? Being able to see the bigger picture, being able to being able to collect information and just see the bigger picture, right? And this is something that is um, I believe is also related to photographic memory, or I guess you could say holographic memory, since the brain's a hologram, right? And it stores information holographically, right? But that aside, the ability to tap into the right brain hemisphere to synthesize information, to see the bigger picture, not only allows for that bigger um, more of that intuition of being able to see the connections between different pieces of information, to be able to see the conspiracies, to be able to see the bigger picture of how this world works. But it's also the key to just seeing everything. I mean, think about like Bradley Cooper in like Limitless, right? That movie where he takes the pill, he takes the NZT, and he's able to just and everything about his talent and everything else. He's able to see stuff that he didn't see before, right? And this is and that awareness comes from the right brain hemisphere, casting your net to the right, right? And another example of this is you look at something like Sherlock Holmes, right? Just being able to deduce, to come up to conclusions by just gathering very, very little information, but being able to see the connections immediately, right? And another thing too is that like being able to store that and being able to access information, be able to access full access to your memories. I mean, that's not something like photographic memory. That's not something that in retrospect, looking back, that's not something that I, at least for me, I don't believe that should be a special ability. Having full access to your own memories, that should be a normal function of the human mind, but it's not for some reason. And this is where we get into the reincarnation trap, right? The memory wipe after each incarnation. And even in this life, we don't have a full memory of what goes on in even a single lifetime, right? And so, man, this is turning into a video about the brain in general, but the right brain hemisphere has a lot to do with this. The connection between both hemispheres, the hemisync, right? Hemisphere synchronization, right? The ability to tap into your full potential, the ability to tap into the ability to connect dots between information, to see the bigger picture, to intuit things, right? To decode information. That's another thing that the right brain hemisphere does, is it decodes information, right? The left brain hemisphere, right? If you're reading a book, as an example, right? The left brain hemisphere, it understands that words are on the page, but the right brain hemisphere, it decodes the meaning from the words, right? Like I said, right? Left brain is about explicit information. Oh, okay, these are the words, these are the letters, right? But the right brain is about meaning. It's about the implicit information, right? What does an apple taste like? What does red look like? You can say the word red, but that's not red, right? And this is what the right brain hemisphere deals with. And this is what's so important about the right brain, is that it gives you the ability to not only absorb, analyze, and to synthesize information, to connect information to everything else, right? To form connections in the brain, right? And this is also another thing where it allows you to learn faster, right? The ability to form connections in the brain, that's the key to learning, right? To get, and another thing about the right brain hemisphere, we go back to the decoding mechanism of the right brain hemisphere, which is so important, that this is the function of the right brain, right? Which is that you can, if you can immediately decode information, like imagine, you know, like the thing that I'm thinking of right now is the scene at the beginning of Good Will Hunting, where he's reading the book, and he's looking at each page for like 1 or 2 seconds, and he immediately downloads the meaning, right? And this is the decoding of the right brain, which has been suppressed either genetically or through, stuff put into the food and into the water and all this other stuff, right? That faculty of the human mind has been suppressed because that higher intuition, that ability to see the bigger picture, that ability to decode information, to absorb knowledge like a sponge, that's dangerous to this matrix, right? That memory, and yet again, going to the reincarnation cycle, right? And this is where we get into memory, right? The ability to absorb information, to process, analyze, synthesize information, right? Information received, right? To expand our bearings on this in this crazy place. They don't want that because there's a chance we might escape. There's a chance we might get wise to the cycles of history. History repeats itself. We see the time loop. We start to question it. We start to say, okay, why do we keep coming back here? And then eventually we get wise and we learn that we can escape, right? But they don't want that. And so this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, which is the right brain hemisphere and its role in some of humanity's hidden abilities, right? Having genius level intellect, being able to deduce information, right? Like the Sherlock Holmes stuff, right? Being able to learn things very quickly, right? Like think about learning a language. How do you learn a language? You learn what the word yet again, left brain hemisphere. You learn what the words are, what they sound like, what they look like. But then right brain, you ascribe meaning to those words, right? And you form connect yet again, synthesizing information, connecting the information to other information, right? Meaning with meaning, right? How do you translate something in English to something in Spanish, right? It's the meaning that's translated, right? And then it goes back to the left brain to be like, oh, okay, right? This is what it sounds like in Spanish, and then you say the sentence, okay, because you figured out the meaning, and now you're going back and forth, and that communication, that collaboration between the two brain hemispheres is, I believe, it's vital to rediscover this capability, to gain this capability again, because this could be, you know, the key to basically getting the same effects of like the Limitless pill from that movie, right? The NZT, right? Being able to see stuff that no other people can see, being able to know things, to intuit things, to learn things faster than other people, to have that decoding capability, to be able to connect the dots, to be able to connect neurons in the brain faster, to ascribe meaning faster, to decode information received faster, which is key to our ability to learn skills, to our ability to learn languages, to our ability to absorb information, to connect it with other things, to absorb it into the larger whole. So, you know, I just think that's a really important thing, and it's a pretty niche thing. Like, why the right brain, right? Because yet again, being able to connect the dots is something that is not uh, is that this matrix doesn't want. Because if you can connect the dots, then you can see that because this is the narrative. They say, oh, it's just a bunch of random events, right? But if you can see the connections between the random events, that this serves this agenda and this serves this agenda, and this is what they want to do, and so it's not all so random as they say, right? If you then that's when you get wise to the system, and they don't want that. And so they teach in the school system and in the media and in the materialist narrative. They teach this idea of just everything's random and everything's disconnected, and they lock you in the left, the logical left. You're always trying to figure out how to get the answer instead of figuring out how you got the answer. I just got the answer. I just intuited it, right? And this is something that is, I believe, a human right. The right to our own memories, the right to our own consciousness, our own brain, our own ability, our own full potential, right? To learn, to seek, right? To seek for knowledge, to seek for truth, right? Which is an innate human drive. It's a spiritual drive, right? And having that thirst for knowledge, that thirst for learning, this is another thing that they program out of humanity in the school system, right? Because naturally we want to learn about how this world works. How do things work? How is, how is everything connected, right? The curiosity, that thirst for knowledge, we need to regain that, right? Even though it's been programmed out, we need to regain and relearn the thirst of knowledge, the curiosity, the childlike, the inner child, the wisdom of the inner child, the curiosity, the ability to go and to search for knowledge and to learn things for the sake of learning things because it's fun, but also because we need to do that if we want to understand the full nature of this matrix, of this soul trap, of this reincarnation trap, and how to end it, right? And I believe that the right brain hemisphere and the ability to coordinate activity between both hemispheres, right, that corpus callosum, right, is going to be super vital to all of this. But yeah, that's the video.